Hey guys, this is Coach KP and I'm here with a strange proposition today, okay? So I'm attempting to do a reaction video on Eckhart Tolle's video on YouTube, okay? And the title of the video is How Do I Keep From Being Triggered? So a little background, I'm a huge fan of Eckhart Tolle. Years ago when I was working with Kartika Nair, Synchro Shakti, who's another coach that you should look up on YouTube, she guided me towards The Power of Now, a very powerful book that Eckhart Tolle has written, and it has changed millions of lives. And I'm so grateful to have read that book. And on the other side, I do believe that spirituality can be fun, and it can also have a little bit of the entertainment qualities that other genres of entertainment have. Generally spirituality is seen as a little bit more of a serious business, but I think there's some room to have fun and laugh about some of the things that goes on in our environment. And I'm not looking to be disrespectful to Eckhart Tolle. That's not the goal here. But I just think that this would be fun. It's an experiment that I'm doing. If you like it, I may do more videos on spiritual leaders and everything. If you don't, hey, this video now. I love the logo. It's the infinity symbol and the yin yang, both very clever.
My ego is really aggressive.
I've watched this video in a long time.
It comes up without me knowing. Only after the ego is gone do I find out.
How many times does that happen?
How can I manage my ego sooner?
That's a question.
That is not uncommon. There's probably more than you, the questioner, who has that, who experiences that.
Look at how chill he is, just chilling.
As more presence arises, so first of all, it's important to invite presence into your life in ordinary situations.
And by inviting presence, what he's really saying is when we cultivate presence, right? It doesn't happen overnight. So when we continually work on being present here and now.
When you're not being challenged by another person, the anger mostly is probably with people or situations, or most situations involve people. So be present when you're out in nature, by not labeling things, by observing in a state of alert attention. And presence then emanates more and more through you. This doesn't mean that necessarily you will, next time the ego comes up,
happen overnight, right?
Being aggressive, it comes up so quickly that you can't catch it in the moment.
It happens to me all the time.
But as the presence in you grows, manifests more strongly.
And when they use the word manifest, what the spiritual leaders, these teachers are saying is that when we bring more of that into our lives, so when he's talking about manifesting presence, it's bringing more presence into our lives through cultivation, through meditation, through energetic exercises, through just being present, through learning some of the things that they teach, or he teaches in this case, in his books.
Usually what happens is the time period that elapses after you've been taken over by anger gets shorter, until you reach a point where a few seconds after it's happened, you suddenly realize it's happened again. Whereas before you might have needed several minutes or even an hour. In some cases the next day you realize, what was that? When you had a huge drama with somebody. Probably involving the pain body.
And the pain body.
Your pain body.
I have to pause this video. I can't talk about Eckhart Tolle without talking about the pain body, right? So the pain body is, for the lack of a clearer explanation that I can provide right now, a pain body is a part of us that gets triggered, right? It is reactive. It is basically all the negativities that we have inside of us can be seen as a pain body. Just wanted to clarify.
Body is probably predominantly has the anger vibration predominantly.
Anger vibration.
And pain body that is not recognized as pain body becomes part of the ego.
That is huge. Pain body that is not recognized as pain body becomes a part of the ego.
In the same way that any thought that you completely identify with becomes part of the ego. In the same way, an emotion that you completely identify with becomes part of the ego. Once you recognize the pain body as the pain body, then it is an energy field in you that still operates, but strictly speaking, it's no longer your ego.
So what he's saying is that once you recognize whatever we are identifying with, it stops being a part of the ego.
Ego can only operate as long as you're unconscious. So although sometimes people say to me, I'm able to observe my ego now, in the way I use the term ego, that's no longer true. The moment you become aware of your ego, it's not really ego anymore. It is still a behavioral or mental, emotional pattern that operates in you. But you are present when you know that there is this pattern operating in you, then you are not it.
So when you're so aware, and you may not even be able to help that, right? And that's okay, is what he's saying. As long as you identify the pattern that is working inside of you, and that's where people get hung up, you know? We don't have to change it. You just need to bring it to the consciousness, is what he's saying. It's amazing, amazing stuff.
It operates in you, and you are the space around it, which is the consciousness. You know it's there. Then before it was ego, yes. But when you recognize it for what it is, it's no longer ego. Ego means unconsciousness. Ego means complete identification. So whatever you recognize in yourself isn't really ego anymore. And so then, as presence grows in you, you reach a point when immediately after this episode, pain body episode, anger episode has just happened, you suddenly realize, oh, it happened again. And then I predict, if it hasn't happened to you yet, it will. A time comes, perhaps very soon, when in the middle of it, it already has taken you over, and you're shouting at someone, and in the middle of it, you realize what's going on, that you've been taken over by that. You still may not be able to stop it.
So you are realizing as you are reacting, right? As those words are coming out of your mouth, you are aware that that's happening versus being unaware and still doing it.
I don't have to, but the awareness is there in the middle of it. And that may happen many times. And then you may find the awareness is there just the moment it begins to arise. The moment the anger pattern wants to come in, the awareness is also already there.
Wow. And that's the equilibrium. Now whatever anger, hatred, jealousy starts to arise from the pit of our bellies, and we are there to meet it. And that starts to happen. It doesn't happen overnight, so we need to still love ourselves even when that doesn't happen, because that's the journey. And a lot of us miss that point, right? That's the journey.
Now, whether or not at this moment you can stop it, we don't know. And never stop it by suppressing it. You stop it simply by shining the light of awareness on it. That eventually stops it.
You cannot stop it by suppressing it.
And
cannot
then
suppress any emotion.
When there is presence is strong enough for that, then you actually begin to have a choice. Do I choose to engage in the same way through my pain body in this situation? Is this the best way of dealing with the situation? You may not literally ask yourself that question, but it is implied in that state of awareness, you have a choice. You're no longer at the mercy of the old conditioned pattern. And then it begins to dissipate. So I predict that this will happen, that presence more and more will come in at earlier stages, and then in the middle of it, and then at the beginning of it. But you need to cultivate or invite presence into your life.
This is why you meditate. One of the biggest reasons to meditate,
helpful situations,
cultivate
so
awareness.
that it can be there in challenging situations. Don't rely on challenging situations alone. That's not going to work.
Don't test your faith.
Invite it into your life in situations where it's easy, but situations that lend themselves to presence. Nature, walking in nature, looking at the sky. Or if you can't get out into nature,
flowers.
Look at the flower.
Look at how he's looking at the flowers right
Just
there.
For half a
in the
minute,
middle of the talk. Right there, he's looking at the flower. And he's there.
While you look at the flower, and this is just one example, could be anything natural. While you look at a flower, you're not only aware of what it is you're looking at, the sense perception. You don't need label. The name of the flower is irrelevant. All that you don't need for this.
Labeling takes you away from the present moment.
Not only see whatever it is that you see with your visual sense, your sight, but there's more to the flower than what you see with your visual sense. And that is?
There is more to the flower than what you see with your visual sense.
An alive presence. Very hard to talk about it. Remember I believe I quoted it the other day, from the saying from Saint-Exupéry, all that is essential is invisible to the eye. All that is essential is invisible to the eye. So although the flower is beautiful,
all that is essential is invisible
within the flower there's hiding a presence that is invisible to the eye. The flower has a presence there. It is not by accident that in many spiritual traditions flowers are sacred symbols.
Yeah. Tradition I come from.
In Buddhism, for example, and other traditions, certain flowers are sacred symbols. The mandala itself, the sacred mandala paintings, they're basically many of them are based on flower designs. Flowers are naturally occurring mandalas, and so there is what is essential about the flower. Yes, there is the external beauty, but the real meaning of beauty is there is an inner essence there. And you cannot sense that when you are looking at the flower through the screen of conceptualization. So you have to drop the screen of conceptualization, which is thought, and look at the flower and give it a little bit of time. And then you begin to sense something, but where do you sense that? You sense it in yourself. What it is that...
I have to pause this video. What he's saying is when you look at the flower without judgment, without judging the fact that it's a flower or it's blue, red, yellow, pink, just look at the flower is all he's saying, okay?
What is it that you sense in yourself when you look at the flower?
What is it that you sense in yourself
it's
when you
both
look
in
at
the flower and in you? It is the essence, the animating consciousness behind this manifestation of this beautiful manifestation of form. There is beyond the form, there is, we could call it the animating spirit. And that is the same animating spirit which is consciousness that is in you. When you have access to it in yourself, you can sense it there. But giving complete attention, for example, to a flower can be very helpful in deepening the access you have to it in yourself.
So just by watching the flower without really judging or giving the flower a name, labeling it, calling it this and that, you are really identifying what's inside of you an aspect of what's inside of us, we are really identifying that by looking at the flower.
So the flower can teach you stillness, because the flower is very still, and teach you other things, that because stillness is only one particular signpost that we use to speak of it. So you sense the essence of the flower, which is sacred, and you can sense the essence of yourself, which is sacred, and you can somehow sense that
I love how he ties
the
those two
essence of the
together.
flower and the essence of yourself are one and the same, and that is the recognition of oneness, which is all.
The recognition of oneness. I had to pause the video. When you recognize your essence as you look at the flower, because it shows you a part of who you are, you can extrapolate that and look at any other object and get to understand another aspect of you. And you really come to an understanding that we're all living in this oneness because of that experience with the flower.
The ancient mystics and so on have spoken about this.
It's crazy. Mind blown.
And that is just, you love it. Basically, that means that is what love is. You recognize yourself in the other. It doesn't have to be another human being, or it's beautiful when you recognize yourself in another human being, but you also recognize yourself in nature.
So much. He's given us so much in this 16-minute video. It's amazing.
So this is important, because that brings, so allow nature to teach you stillness. Now, nature, of course, embodies a completely different degree of consciousness from yours. I will now make a mystical statement. You don't have to believe it.
I love it. I love how humble he is.
The flower loves it when you give it attention, because you add something enormous to the flower by giving it attention. The flower is not aware of its own beauty, it just is.
Think of that in a relationship.
When you unite your consciousness with the flower, through you,
When you just look at someone that you really love,
because there's ultimately
you're adding value just
the
by being there.
separateness that we see in the physical is not really there. Through you, the flower gets a glimpse of self-recognition. The flower recognizes itself. So when nature is waiting for you to recognize it, and what nature alone is also involved in, it is part of the evolving universe that is becoming more conscious. And humans are an essential part of that
Nature
on
is
this
also
planet.
becoming more conscious.
So when a human becomes conscious of nature, nature through the human becomes conscious of itself. And it's an amazing process. Whether or not this is true, you have to kind of find out for yourself by being more attentive.
He did give a disclaimer saying he was going to make a mystical statement.
And honoring what's there, and as much as possible, relate to nature without the screen of knowledge. When you need it, it's fine. If a child asks you, what's the name of this flower? You tell the child what the name is, but hopefully you don't say, this is a rose.
Important parenting tip.
Hopefully you say to the child,
Its name
it's called a rose. There's a very big difference between saying, this is a rose, because that would be saying to the child that this concept is what it is, that the sound rose is that. No, it's only a name.
Rose, right?
The name of it is rose.
Name is rose.
And so to prevent the child from getting lost in concepts at an early age, always,
names
once
are
you've taught a
abstractions.
word, always bring the child back to the actual experience of it, so that the child does not come to the misperception that the name of the flower is the flower.
It's a very essential parenting tip, right? The name of the flower is just a name. It's not the essence of the flower.
There's a depth to the flower that is totally covered up when you mistake the name for the flower. So that's why when you truly want to see it, you have to remove the mental label, and you can only do that by being present. The alertness rises, and then you communicate, you relate to the flower without the screen of concepts.
I like how chill he is.
So this was something to do with presence, this part of the answer, although I went some distance away from the answer of anger arising and catching it. So it's vital to generate presence in normal life, in nature, and so on.
Sharing how to
so that
cultivate
it's there
presence.
when the pain body arises.
The latter half of the video. All right, so I'm gonna stop that there. It's an amazing, amazing video. I'm so glad I got to share this with you guys. Again, I'm open to suggestions. This has been great. Rewatching this video, Eckhart Tolle is amazing. If you didn't know of Eckhart Tolle, you should go look him up. The Power of Now is a great book. I have a lot of respect for Eckhart. Okay, this is Coach KP signing off for today. Peace.